In Washington, President Donald Trump marking a month back in the White House. His administration touting mass firings of federal workers, new tariffs, a long list of executive orders. But many top issues remain ahead, from a funding fight on Capitol Hill to peace talks with Russia and Ukraine. Political consultant Richard Gordon joins me from Washington to talk more about what's next. Richard, good to see you. I know you're at a governor's conference there, Republicans and Democrats all there. So give me the fly on the wall perspective. Is there a difference between what you're hearing in terms of the funding cuts and freezing funding and who's getting it now? What are you hearing?
Well, there's a lot going on. And I think the word of the day is fear. There's a tremendous fear amongst governors, and it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. I'm hearing it from both sides of the aisle for the last few days as I've been here about these cuts and what they mean. If you're going to pick one thing, it's all about Medicaid. You know, as you probably know, as your listeners may know, the states pay, about a third and the feds pay. So it's about a 70-30 split, something like that, between the feds and the state, depending on the state. And if you change that math at all, it's crushing for the states, just crushing. And, you start looking at what's going on on Capitol Hill and what the president is saying and what DOJ is saying. And there's significant fear that there are going to be real cuts to Medicaid, and that is just going to destroy the states.
Well, and I know on Friday the president spoke privately with Republican governors, but I'm curious, again, I'm sure you hear a lot of things. Is anybody speaking back to him? We know the Democrats are speaking about what they're not happy about, but Republicans look like they've been in line this whole time. What are you saying?
Well, the Republicans have been very much in line. And, it's one of those interesting things when you talk to them privately, they tell you one thing, and you talk to them publicly, or you hear them publicly and they say something else. There is not an ounce of daylight between Democrats and Republicans as far as these cuts go and how it's going to hurt their states. The difference is how they talk about it publicly and how they deal with it. As far as pushback, the Democrats, in some ways see themselves as the Democrat governors see themselves as the only vehicle to push back. And as we saw in the White House just the other day in that private meeting on Friday that you allude to, the president was talking about transgender sports, transgender athletes, and looked directly at the governor of Maine and said, well, you agree with me on this, that, transgender men should not play in women's sports. And she just said, no, I will follow state law. And he pushed her on it. And she said, I'll see you in court. So, there's more heat here than there usually is. And I think the Democratic governors see themselves as the only vehicle, because it's not the House, it's not the Senate, the only vehicle that could really push back and argue against them.
Well, I'm wondering what you're seeing in the world of Ukraine, because as you know, of course, the president has constantly said the war would have never happened if he was there. That's neither here or there anymore. We're here. But of course, he's called Zelensky a dictator last year. He said Ukraine started this war. I've seen a little pushback from Republicans this week, nothing too dramatic. But what are you seeing on that issue?
Well, first of all, I notice I basically look like a big Ukrainian flag wearing a blue shirt and a yellow tie. But it's interesting because many Republicans were very supportive of Zelensky up until Trump's election. Look, there's a segment of the Republican base that's opposed to giving this amount of money to Ukraine, and there are all these lies about what went on. First of all, Russia started the war. Zelensky is a popularly elected official. Putin is a dictator, and Europe has given significantly more money than the United States to support Ukraine. By and large, every governor I have spoken to supporting Ukraine. I mean, you hear it all the time. Zelensky spoke to the governors last summer. I was at the meeting. There's uniformity. Every governor, Democrat, Republican, stood up, gave him a standing ovation, a very robust standing ovation. So, as far as the cuts go, people are starting to understand Donald Trump better. This is not about Ukraine per se. He doesn't particularly
Well,
care.
Richard, let me just interrupt you there, because here's, if you
Yeah, sure.
take a few feet back, and what you do notice is, if you look at the players, you have the European nations, democratic nations on one side supporting Ukraine, and on the other side it appears to be Russia, North Korea, the United States. That's a changing in the world order we haven't seen in over 80 years.
Yeah, I mean that's something one has never seen. I mean, the United States and Russia haven't been on the same side since World War II. And when the Iron Curtain came down in 1945, I mean that changed everything. We've never been on the side of, obviously, of North Korea. Look, this is about minerals. This is about the gems that Ukraine has. This is a way for the United States to glob onto that. I mean, Putin and Trump are going after the same thing, which is the wealth of Ukraine, and Europe obviously is trying to build a security wall to stop Russia from moving across Europe. The American foreign policy has always been supportive of our friends in Europe. Calling one of our allies a dictator, as opposed to the person who invaded his country, who is a dictator, is a bit much. And
Yeah.
I think most people understand that and are starting to understand why Trump is doing exactly what he's
It's going
doing.
to unfold interestingly in the next few weeks, I'm sure. But also in a couple of weeks, of course, we have got the March 14th government shutdown coming. There is a debt ceiling limit coming up in June. But I'm sort of curious about that, because basically Democrats are talking about staying united, voting against it. But you know as well as me, and you're a strategist, I really want you to chime in here, that if the government should shut down, it will be because Republicans could not keep all their troops together. And yet, you know as well as me, Republicans will be at the first at the mic saying the Democrats, not one, supported keeping the government open. And it looks like they'll take the hit. What are you advising them to do?
Take the hit. I think you're absolutely right on how they try to spin it, but let's be real. Republicans control all three branches of government. The American people understand that. The Democrats have no obligation to support them. This bill will not get passed without Democratic support, because the conservatives in the Republican caucus are never going to accept the massive, massive debt that the Trump bills are building in. I mean, the trillions and trillions of dollars. I think it's $4 trillion of more in debt. A lot of Republicans are going to take a walk on that. They can't lose more than three people. So if I were telling the Democratic caucus what to do, is I would say hold your ranks as long as you can, because by holding their ranks, they will force the Republicans to cave in. The Republicans are not going to let the government shut down as they did the last time Trump was president. I think they have learned that that is a death knell for them. The American people will say, you're in control of all of government. You couldn't figure this out. So I think the Democrats' best way of making any substantive change is to hold their ground, hold their own, insist on certain things. I mean, look, last night, not last night, a couple of nights ago, Thursday night, the Senate passed a bill that did not have the Trump tax cuts in it. And the Democrats tried to put an amendment that said, okay, no tax cuts for anyone who makes more than $1 billion.
Right.
To make more than $1 billion, you can't have a tax cut. The Republicans turned that down. Well, the American people are going to get to hear about that, and they're going to understand what's going on. No, this is a Republican sticky wicket,
Yeah.
and the Democrats should not bail them out.
Okay. Strategist Richard Gordon, it's always fascinating to talk to you about it. We'll be doing this again because a lot's going to unfold in the next few weeks. Thanks for your time. Have a good
I
Sunday.
look forward to it. Thanks for having me on. Have a good weekend.
You got it. All right, we're going to take one more break. More WGN TV Political Report is coming up next.